What is going on, Debt Free Mafia? Hey, I am so thankful that you're joining me today. Today, I want to talk about the time I got sued. Yeah, you heard that right. You probably saw the thumbnail, so probably saw the title. Like, oh no, Coach Rick's getting sued. Well, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because a lot of times I tell my story about the time I was over $1 million in debt and how it motivated me to never ever want to be in debt ever again, and also help other people get out of debt. I have the lawsuit and the lease agreement right in front of me, and I tell that story a lot, and especially on the internet, people don't believe me. And I don't blame them, because it just seems so crazy that could happen. Because I was that much in debt at let me see, that puts me at like 20. I signed up for it at 23 years old, so I was around like 25, 26 is when I was that in debt. But anyways, guys, if you don't know me, my name's Rick. I'm a financial coach, owner of the Debt Free Mafia. If you are interested in the becoming financially bulletproof, or you love the debt-free lifestyle, you don't have to be debt-free. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Love for you to be a part of us. We are a growing group of people who are all about the debt-free lifestyle, want to become a community that supports one another when it comes to being debt-free. Love for you to be here. Guys, again, thank you so much. So I wanted to talk about this. So yeah, I was remarkably in debt. Not only was I in debt for this contract that I'm going to talk about here in just a second, but I was in debt from student loans on top of that, and some family debt. So guys, I'll tell you guys my story. Just I try my hardest to tell it as brief as possible, but it's just kind of hard because there's so much that's going on. Guys, I graduated from New Mexico State, go Aggies. Married my wife while we were there. I had no idea what I was going to do in my life. I really wanted to be a boss, though. I'm talking like boss, like I'm just a boss, not like a manager. I just wanted to be a boss, right? I wanted to do things that were big, successful, just had a lot of ambition and drive. So my wife got offered a job in West Texas for a small oil company. I had no idea what I was going to do. I was like, surely I can find a job in the oil field. I did. I started working for GE Oil and Gas at the time. I worked there for about a year and a half, found out I hated it. I just didn't like working behind a desk and working for somebody else. So, or at least a corporate, somebody else that wasn't interesting to me. And anyways, had this great idea. I was going to buy a franchise because I wanted to be a businessman, but I needed somebody to show me how to run a business. So I started getting help from the Small Business Development Center here. I started making a business plan, found out I wanted to buy a franchise, bought a franchise. We sold our house to do that. It took all the profit off of our house that we had, bought into this franchise. It was going to be in South Denver in a suburb called Highlands Ranch. We got the contract. My lawyer said it was terrible. Don't sign it. The franchise said it's great, sign it. So I wanted it so bad, I ignored my lawyer. Terrible mistake. Mistake number one. Listened to them, signed it. Here it is right here. It says this is a lease agreement. It's for basically a strip mall, because we were going to put this business into a strip mall. And that strip mall was in kind of a high-end area, so it was expensive. And on the very last page, I'm going to show it briefly just because you can see my signature down there at the bottom. But it's essentially a personal guarantee on the very last page. So, a lot of people build businesses around having a business structure, an LLC, to protect them from any kind of legal issues they could have as a business. Well, that very last page neglects that, basically takes that whole thing out, says, I personally am responsible for this contract. Terrible mistake. Do not sign contracts like that. Anyways, we were getting ready to move up to Colorado. We wanted to start this business. I made mistake number one. I borrowed money from family. That's mistake number two. I already had number one. Mistake number two, I borrowed money from family. If you don't know, it is not a smart thing to do, to borrow money from family, because, and some of you are feeling this way, because you just feel weird around them. It can cause tension, and it can cause falling outs, right? So we did that, and then when we were finally ready to move up there after signing the contract, as soon as we did that, there was all kinds of problems with the franchise itself. We found out that there was some relational issues between the owner and his son, and then we found out on top of all that, they signed us up for a reality TV show. Like, not us personally, even though we were in the background of it for one of the meetings, but it was for a TV show called The Profit. Comes on after Shark Tank. Yeah, I'm in the background. I met Marcus Lemonis, my wife and I have a picture. I can bring that up at some point with him. Anyways, we thought this was going to be great. It turned into a clown show, people backstabbing each other, essentially they were going to rebrand the franchise I was a part of, so I couldn't build my franchise in the lease space that I'd already signed for. Was already on the clock. Could not start building because I had no idea what the brand was going to be. Didn't know if the name was going to change. Didn't know what the aesthetics were going to be for the brand. Didn't know exactly what all of our products were even going to be at that point because everything was changing. So I got stuck with this dadgum commercial lease in one of the most expensive parts of Denver, suburbs of Denver, and we were doing everything we could. I kept borrowing money from family to make these payments. I was working at a horrible job at Safeway. It might be my second least favorite job ever. I mean, I did not like it. And then my wife was working as a dental receptionist at a dentist office, just because those were the only jobs we could find in that area that were like at least above $15 an hour, because to live in Highlands Ranch, it was so expensive. So we're not only having to live there and pay expensive rent, which was like, for that area, it was cheap, but we were paying like $1,200 or $1,300 for a 1-bedroom. And then on top of that, my lease payments for my that space were like around, that was stagnated, but they were around like $5,000 a month. So it was super expensive, right? So we had all this money we're having to come up with. I was dumb, borrowed money, like I said, to make some of these lease payments. Still, we're waiting on the franchise to change everything. They didn't change, or it just ended up being a complete mess. We got to the point where we had been doing this for about 6 months, trying to keep our head above water, and I finally was just like, I'm sick of it. It was around Christmas time. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm running. So I basically wrote them an email and said, guys, I can't pay you anymore. The franchise is out of control. I can't do anything, right? So I had no income, only expenses, and guys, the amount of stress that I was dealing with was unfathomable. I can't even picture it, like, kind of going back. I just remember I lost like 15 pounds. I was super skinny, super unhealthy. I looked pale. I would come home and cry. I mean, I would. I'm not even gonna lie with you guys. Just the amount of money that I owed just kept stacking up on me, and stacking up and stacking up. And not only that, my wife was also kind of going through a rough time too, because she was working at the front end of this dental office, and she was getting she was the one that would basically have to bear the bad news of, hey, you owe money on your teeth. And she would get yelled at by people who couldn't afford their bills, and which was super unfortunate that she had to take the brunt of that. So we couldn't pay our bills, they couldn't pay their bills. The mounting stress was nuts. And we decided during that time we were never ever going to be in debt like that ever again. We're not going to let this happen to us, not to our family. We're going to wait from this chapter of our life, and we're going to change everything. So we eventually got sued for that. I got it right here. This is the actual lawsuit that we got served. It says we got served on 5/15/2017 at 8 p.m. at our apartment at the time. I remember the sheriff knocked on the door, answered, got the subpoena, and he told us good luck with that, and then left. And so we were like on the couch watching The Office and minding our own business, and got that because we weren't making our payments anymore for the lease space that we were in, because we literally couldn't. I wrote them and told them we couldn't. I was hoping they'd reason with us, just because my situation was really unfortunate, and they had no sympathy. So anyways, God was super good during that time. We were trying to join a church during that time, and part of it was you had to meet with an elder. The elder happened to be an attorney who dealt with these kinds of contracts. So God had our back. But this guy worked for us pro bono. He was incredible. I admire him to this day. I think about him quite a bit, because he helped people who didn't give him anything in return. And so anyways, amazing guy. He helped us walk through this. We tried to settle with them. They would not settle. They forced us into bankruptcy, because they said you're either going to have to come up with $1.2 million in the next 90 days, or you're going to have to go through bankruptcy. And we're like, here's a little bit of cash, take this cash, because we're protected under we're still technically Texas residents at that time, and we're protected under the Homestead Act that's here in Texas. So they can only sue for so much, and literally everything we had was protected. They couldn't get anything from us. So we're like, here, take some cash, leave us alone, or force us into bankruptcy and you get nothing. And they said, okay, we'll just force you into bankruptcy. So it stunk. It's a giant corporation. I don't think they're evil. I don't think they're bad guys. I don't blame them. They were doing just normal business stuff. I was hoping they would work with us, but they didn't. This whole thing was our fault. We signed it. Ultimately, I take all the responsibility for it, even though there's so much stuff that's outside of my control. I still take responsibility for it because I signed a terrible contract. And yeah, sometimes just life happens and it pushes you through bad stuff. So that was my first failed business. I wear it with a badge of honor now. I was very ashamed of it for a long time. But I'm no longer ashamed for it anymore, just because I think it's part of my story. It's part of the reason why I'm so motivated to help other people get out of debt and make wiser choices when it comes to finances. Guys, I know that was kind of a long story. Let me know below, are you fighting any battles? Have you dealt with any kinds of big debts, or are you living financially free now? Just kind of let me know. You can tap in and let me know there. If this is interesting to you, just help me out by hitting the thumbs up button. Also, again, I welcome you to the Debt Free Mafia. Hit subscribe. So thankful that you stopped by. Guys, we'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.